In this video, I go off the deep end and talk about a whole bunch of stuff you guys are asking about. Daniel, roll the intro. Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. It means a lot to me. Couple of posts about how to be a sovereign clinical researcher. So what I mean by that is how to be self-sufficient in an industry that doesn't really care about you. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you work for a big organization, especially a CRO, AMC, like, hate to break it to you, you kind of are just another number. And I know there's good people at these organizations. I've interviewed on this show like line managers that really go out of their way to help the people that they're in charge of. And there's good people everywhere. Don't get me wrong. But you are dispensable at the bigger companies because at the end of the day, like, they're looking to maximize efficiencies, maximize revenue, profits for their shareholders. And you might also be at the small companies, like every company, even small ones, even mine. Like we treat our staff well, and I know a lot of big companies and small companies do that too. But I think you have to like be in one of these companies to really understand what I'm talking about, and you could get unlucky and just be in a toxic company. And the toxic companies come in all shapes and sizes. But generally, the larger the organization, the more dispensable you are. And the way I train my staff here at Yuma Clinical Trials, I know there's other sites that do it. A lot of them come to save our sites. We really want to empower people to become leaders because we're still in the high growth stage. Like, we're looking to double our revenues next year. As long as you're in an organization that's growing rapidly, you're less at risk of being dispensable. Now, once you're at a company where growth has stagnated, and generally this comes at the bigger companies where they're trying to squeeze profits. Like, what happens at big CROs when they can't grow anymore? They have to grow their profits by cutting costs and by outsourcing. And we're seeing a lot of that happening with the CROs outsourcing project managers assistants, study startup specialists to Latin America. And the point of this is not to say whether this is good or bad. The point of this is, if you're watching, to teach you how to become self-sufficient and what I call sovereign, because I got a lot of questions about that video. So how do you become sovereign? And this is going to be like kind of a rant, but the way to become sovereign is to not look at your job as a job, but to look at your job in the context of your career. And I think you need to take ownership of your job or your career. Pretend, even if you're a W-2 employee, pretend that it's your business, like whatever your name is, comma, Inc., if it makes it easier for you to think that way. Because the minute you just consider your job a job and that's it, you become dispensable. Why? Because technologies can replace you as they get better. What is every tech company trying to do right now? They're coming to sites like mine and they're trying to figure out our pain points. Why? So that they can solve those pain points. Well, what do CROs look at when it comes to outsourcing? I just said project managers, assistants, startup specialists, overseas, financial analysts. What are they looking to do? They're looking to cut costs and squeeze profits. in a way, that's a technology too, because technology allows this kind of movement to occur. So if you look at your job as just a job and that's it, you are putting yourself at jeopardy of getting replaced. And as sad as that and cold as that might seem, it's the reality of the situation. And you can sit there and complain, oh, it sucks, it shouldn't be this way. Well, it is. And whether you complain about it or not, it's going to continue being that way because companies are going to keep acting like companies. Money is a real thing. Profit margins are going to try to get squeezed. Again, the safest bet is to be a part of a growing company like Yuma Clinical Trials. And I'm not a psychic, but one day Yuma Clinical Trial will reach a point, probably well after I'm gone, because I don't like to stick around myself either, when companies leave growth phase and become management phase. Like, I just don't like that either. I would have sold the company by then or just have it running on autopilot at that point. So join a company that's growing, and you may need to take a pay cut. But the interesting thing about companies like this is that you have to do more than just what your job responsibilities are. We have somebody here named Lana, who's next door, and she can attest to this. And matter of fact, all of the employees that we have, there's 5 of them. None of them came in knowing what they're doing. We trained them all as far as their job responsibilities are concerned, but they all wear many different hats. And I think to keep yourself indispensable, and ironically enough, being a part of a company like ours allows them to be more indispensable than others. If you've been just a cog in the machine, and you've been told what to do, and day in, day out, you do like the same repetitive tasks, your job is at risk. It's your fault if you get comfortable in one of those situations and don't do anything to improve your skill set. Because at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself and your family to make yourself sovereign. So you got to stop treating your job as just a job and then you go home. You got to think of it as your career. And looking at it in the context of your career opens up a lot of doors. Hopefully it opens up your eyes a lot to where you can start seeing beyond just your paycheck. So there's people out there that go to conferences on their own dime. I met so many people last year at Save Our Sites that came on their own dime, right? Like, it's one thing if your company pays for you to go. It's another thing if no one's telling you to go and you go out of your way to go attend some of these things in order to network, in order to improve your future career prospects. You may not need anything to happen to you right then and there. That's not how networking usually works. Networking doesn't work by the person saying, hey, I need something right now. What can I do to achieve that? Networking is constant. Like, you go when you don't need something. When is the best time to get a loan? When is the best time to ask the bank for a loan? It's when you don't need money. When you do need money, no one wants to give it to you. You're like high risk. Why do you need money? The best time to ask is when you don't need it. Same thing with job prospects and career opportunities. The best time to find opportunities is when you don't need it. This is why job recruiters, specialize in calling people not with the open to work button on their LinkedIn, right? But people that are already working at other places, because that's the easiest low-hanging fruit. There's obviously someone else willing to pay this person for a job. That must mean they're somewhat decent at their role. So you should be looking to network. You should be looking to learn new things. If you are a CRA, and I'm not predicting, this is not a prediction channel, I'm not predicting CRAs get outsourced at some point. Or if I don't care what role you are, CRC, in-house CRA, maybe you're a project manager that didn't get replaced yet. You should be diversifying your skill set, meaning if you can, nights or weekends or whenever you have time, find side gigs, side opportunities, even if they're volunteer positions. And where's the best place to find these kind of situations right now and opportunities? Small sites near you that are growing year over year, like doubling revenue year over year. We're still at the size to where, and there's hundreds of sites like mine in the US, if not thousands. And there's certainly thousands of these around the world, doubling year over year, that can't keep up with all the tasks they have to do. And what happens when you grow really quickly? You lose a little bit of control over quality assurance. You lose a little bit of control over patient recruitment. You lose a little bit of control over everything because you're growing so quickly. You're not taking care of all the inefficiencies. You're not worried about all the inefficiencies necessarily, or you don't have the time or resources. So these are the exact companies that you need to go to. I'm not saying to leave your job, but these are the companies you need to go to in order to build your skill set and add these things to your resume. And by the way, which site, like the size of mine or smaller or even bigger, would not want someone from a pharma or CRO or academic medical center to teach them things that they know that they're good at? Because what's every small company trying to do is to eventually be big. And you coming from a big place, a big organization, you can teach at least a little bit to sites, at least within your area of expertise, how those sites can become bigger themselves, at least in those aspects. Like, hey, Yuma Clinical Trials, I came from University of Arizona, and these are some of the tools we used for quality control to make sure coordinators were not forgetting to schedule. These were things we've done to make sure coordinators were not forgetting which labs to order or which labs to draw. These were some of the things we put in place to make sure that informed consent process was being followed, and this is how we documented it, and this is how we kept data privacy in order at our site. There's that's the long tail of what small sites need. And if you come from a big organization, you probably have a lot of things that you've been used to doing at your place that the smaller sites don't, because they don't have time to deal with those things. They're too busy growing year over year. And usually those are like a lot of the protective measures in place that the big companies do well, that the smaller sites don't do well. So that's one way to become sovereign, is to leverage your expertise in your niche at the small sites. You can also, do you know how many tech vendors there are right now? There are more tech vendors. Like, they are just everywhere on LinkedIn. They're in my inbox. They're all over the place, that love to get feedback from research professionals, whether you are someone that worked for a CRO, someone that worked for a sponsor, someone that worked for a site, or somebody that worked for another tech vendor. And whether you work for another tech vendor or not, you got to make sure that you're not that you are following your CDA and your confidentiality disclosures, but within whatever legal limits you're allowed and ethical limits that you are afforded, you can be working with these tech companies. Just be on their committee. They have different committees for all kinds of things. There's boards on all these organizations, like volunteer roles. Why don't you try to join one of those? I know ACRP does a lot of local chapters. Why don't you volunteer to be a part of that? Why don't you get involved with your local chapters? So network when you don't need it. That's how you become sovereign. Try to become a thought leader. If you're lucky enough to work for a company that does empower you, that does pay you to go to conferences, like we do with Katie, actually. Katie's our lead CRC. She's able to qualify for the ACRP exam. We're going to pay for her. Once you hit that 2-year mark, we want someone who's a certified clinical research coordinator on our staff. It helps us get more studies. And as a retention tool for our employees, we pay for their ACRP certification. Not only that, we pay for her and we paid for all of our staff to come to our conference, Save Our Sites conference. There's organizations that do this kind of stuff. Katie has become a mini thought leader. She's on LinkedIn posting cheat sheets for different stages of the studies that we're in, whether we're in startup, whether we're in ongoing maintenance, whether we're in closeout. That she's already been helping other people, and that's part of the next point of how you become sovereign is you start to help other people. Once you start helping other people, there's this funny thing in psychology that's embedded in all of us human beings. It's called reciprocity. So doing good, when you do something good for someone, like humans, unless they're psychopaths, but most humans want to reciprocate what they've received from you. And so you'll start seeing that they go out of their way to give back to you. And you don't do things like you don't do nice things just to hope for something back. But that's also part of networking is like as you're establishing yourself as a mini thought leader and helping other people. So you're also establishing yourself not just as a mini thought leader, but as a resource for other people. Other people are going to want to be resources for you as well. And again, you want to start doing this when you don't need anything in return. And if you've planted enough seeds, by the time you do need something in return, you've got a network of people, and that's networking. That's real networking right here. You've got a network of people willing and ready to help you back. So that's another way to become sovereign. And finally, the last way is to not ask for permission and you just start doing things on your own. So do you know how many colleagues of mine work at CROs? You have access to like some of the best learning portals in the industry. If you work in oncology, you can learn just about any other therapeutic area within your own CRO. It's right there at your fingertips. No one's going to pay you to do it. It's not part of your job responsibility. But again, if you treat your career as a company and not just as a job, needing a paycheck, you're going to go out of your way to do these things because now you're becoming a generalist. And I tell everybody, you're going to start out as a specialist in this space. The goal for all of you is to become a generalist over time. And of course, you're going to always specialize in different things. And at any given moment in time, you're maybe a specialist for something, but your resume is developing the repertoire of a generalist. And I really think those people are indispensable. And typically those people don't ask for permission. They just do things. And if you treat your career like a career or like a company rather than a job, what does any business owner do that's actually good or a go-getter? There comes a point where you stop asking for permission or asking like what's the blueprint to do this, and you just start doing and you start experimenting and you start playing it around within reason. You don't want to break the law and you don't want to be unethical. But when it comes to building your career and helping others and becoming a mini thought leader and going out of your way to help other organizations or your own company, don't ask for permission. Just do it. Nobody cares about, and that's really, I think, the integrative part of all of this is nobody cares necessarily about what you're trying to do. They just need, like when you work for someone, they have tasks that they expect you to do, and that's the bare minimum. Nobody necessarily cares. You'll find good companies that truly do care about your long-term career plans. Like, again, small companies that double in revenue each year. But nobody cares what you're trying to do. So just go out there and do it. Like nobody's going to go out of their way to help you. But you start helping yourself, and then you'll start finding that people can see that you're genuine about it, and they'll come out and try to help you too, provided that you're also doing your part as far as effort, as far as good attitude, and as far as trying to be a resource for other people. So that's in a nutshell how to become sovereign. It doesn't just happen overnight, but it's habits that over time consistently executed will provide benefits to you in the long run and will also increase your sphere of influence, which is your networking. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I felt like I should do this video. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for more videos.